So in this example of a genetic cross, we're actually showing a genetic cross as a pedigree chart. So we're showing what we've seen before in a monohybrid cross, but actually as a family tree instead. So in this example, in humans, the gene for brown hair is dominant to the gene for red hair. Okay, so I've listed at the top brown capital B for dominant, and then red smaller case, so lowercase b, to show that it's recessive. So in this pedigree chart, we have a grandmother, brown-haired, and grandfather, red-haired. Now this grandmother and grandfather are described as the P generation, as we discussed before in the monohybrid cross. So we'll label these the P generation. They have a child who is the mother. She has brown hair, and this will be the F1 generation. Now, a point to note here is that the father is actually not part of the F1 because he's not blood related to the grandparents, so he's not counted as part of the F1. He's counted as something separate. They have children, so they have 2 sons and a daughter, and they are the F2 generation. Now in this example you have 3 possible genotypes, the same as the other examples that we talked about. So if you are brown haired, you can have 2 capital B's, so be homozygous dominant, and be brown haired. You can be heterozygous, have 1 dominant allele and 1 recessive allele, and be brown haired. Or you can be red haired and have 2 lowercase b's. So in these style of questions, what you could be asked is to state the genotype of all the people in the family tree in the pedigree chart. So the only people that we know for definite to begin with are the people that are recessive, that have red hair, because they can only be red haired because they have 2 lowercase b's, 2 recessive alleles. So everyone with red hair, so the grandfather and the son, have homozygous recessive genotype. Everyone else, because they have brown hair, must have a capital B, must have a dominant gene, or dominant allele, somewhere. So this person, the grandmother, must have a capital B, the mother must have a capital B, the father the same, the son with the brown hair the same, and the daughter with brown hair the same. So now what you have to do is work your way back. So son 1 has red hair. He has 2 lowercase b's, 2 recessive alleles. One of these alleles must have come from one parent, and the other allele must have come from the other. So that means that he inherited this recessive allele from his mother and the other one from his father. So that makes the mother heterozygous and the father heterozygous. Okay, now the same if we look at the grandfather, that proves that that's correct, okay, because the grandfather can only ever give a lowercase b, and that's where this mother got it from. She must have got her capital B from her mother. Now at this point we can't tell whether the grandmother is 2 capital B's or whether the grandmother is heterozygous, because she could have given a dominant allele from here or a dominant allele from here. We have no way of knowing. Now if we had more kids, if the grandmother and the grandfather had more children, we could be able to figure that out depending on what the children's phenotype and genotype was. So if we now look at these children, the son and the daughter, we have a son with brown hair and we have a daughter with brown hair. Now if we look at these examples, we've got a parent who is heterozygous and another parent who's heterozygous. Now each of those parents could have given the capital B, we don't know which. So if we look at a Punnett Square for this, we can figure out what the potential genotypes of these 2 kids could be. So if we do a very quick one, put one parent on the top, right, so say that's the mother for example, and then the dad on the side. We have 2 capital B's here, so homozygous dominant. We have a heterozygous here, a heterozygous here, and then a homozygous recessive here. Now these 2 children don't have red hair, and therefore we can rule this genotype out. So they could potentially either be 2 capital B's, or they could be heterozygous. We don't know which, So our options are this or this. And the same with the daughter here, this or this. We can't tell, just in the fact that they have brown hair, that whether they are homozygous dominant or whether they're heterozygous. So in these questions, if you aren't sure which one it is, you write both. You say it could either be B, or heterozygous. Now in these questions, they could ask you as well a follow-up question based on what they've just covered. So I've written one as an example. So if the mother and the father have another child, okay, so this mother and this father have another child, what are the chances of this child having brown hair? So you would have to do the Punnett Square just like I've done before. So you'd put the mother on one side and the father on the other and cross them like we've done before. Okay, so in terms of the genotypes we've got, you have one with 2 capital B's. You have 2 that are heterozygous. And you have 1 that is homozygous recessive. Okay, so in terms of phenotypes then, because each of these has a capital B, we have 3 that would then be brown haired. And we have 1 that would be red haired. So the question asks, what is the chances of their child having brown hair? 3 out of a total of 4, so 75%. Or 3 out of 4.